would like you to give a message to members of Congress as well as to the candidates who are running for President of the United States regarding the connection that Sudan has to the Islamic extremists who have taken over with the help of the United States in places like Egypt and Tunisia and Libya. If you could give a message to them as they're shaping their foreign policy, we would appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first of all, I would like to thank the Sudan caucus and those people who worked with us previously in Sudan Peace Act for their genuine support and efforts they done to help the Sudanese reach to the CPA, and also for their recent efforts to change regime in Sudan, because I believe the Congress members are the real lawmakers in the United States, and their voice should be heard from the administration. And I believe most of them are aware of the dangers of the terrorists and the terrorism which led by the Khartoum regime. Always we mention this since 10 years. Khartoum regime is the head of the terrorists. Khartoum regime, it is the Khartoum city, and Khartoum regime, it is the place where the money of the terrorists being invested. Khartoum regime in the new policy towards Sudan should be taken as a priority in American strategies, because I believe this terrorist has the cell and they have the link, and also they are undercover what they called moderate Islam or moderate Muslims. There is no moderate Islams and there is no moderate Muslims. They are regular and normal people who went to the mosque. They are the regular Muslims, and they are not engaging or involving in politics. Those who are now change their names, such as National Congress Party, they are actually National Islamic Front. And those people like Muslims Brotherhood, they are changing their name now to Justice and Freedom or something like that in Egypt. And those people in Tunisia, as well as those people in Libya and everywhere. So it is very important to know that those people believe these names are not acceptable by the West, and especially the United States, in their war against terrorists and terrorism. So they are changing their names, but they are working under the same ideology, that is extremist and fundamental and radical ideology. So it is very important to know that we don't like the dictators to be continuing in any other countries such as Libya or Egypt and everywhere. But we have to be aware that when we come to the policy, we cannot change the dictators and replace them by the extremists or the terrorists or Qaeda members. And I say this, and I just need to give one example. Like Abdul Hakim Belhaj, the person who believe he liberated Tripoli from Gaddafi. Gaddafi is a bad person, is a dictator. Everybody agree on that one. But Abdul Halim Belhaj is one of the members of Al Qaeda, and he used to live, and one of the extremists, and he used to live in Khartoum, and married by Sudanese, and then he used the Sudan embassy in Tripoli as a military operation to liberate Tripoli itself, and he get the weapons which Bashir mentioned on 27th of this month in Kassala in eastern Sudan. He said 100% of the weapons which liberated Tripoli came from Sudan. That Bashir stated by himself, and that weapons come through Belhaj. That's why Bashir sent Muhammad Atta, the head of the security in Sudan, to Benghazi, And then he said, sent Ali Karti, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, to Libya. After that, he sent Nafi Ali Nafi, the assistant of the president. And finally, Ali Osman Muhammad Taha, the first vice president, was in Tripoli to congratulate those people. And we knew the weapons which they smuggled from Sudan, it came from Iran. And it came from Iran, and then they took that weapons through the desert and through the ships to Benghazi. And now the deal is they're going to return the same weapons back to Sudan to fight those people who are fighting for their rights in Nuba Mountains and Blue Nile and Darfur. Last week, people see over 30 land cruisers, occupied land cruisers in Dongula in northern Sudan in their way as the first patch to Nuba Mountains and Blue Nile to fight. That's why we believe liberation is good, changing dictators is good, but there is a cell of the terrorists and radical Muslims in these areas get advantages of what the United States said they can deal with the moderate Muslims. So they are working in this concept right now as a moderate Muslims, but actually they are a terrorist. Also, I believe some Arab countries are involving directly in helping those terrorists in Sudan. I will say Qatar specifically, and Qatar is not playing a neutral role in Sudan and in other African countries. Qatar was providing militarily and some logistic stuff to liberate Tripoli in Libya, but actually Qatar is supporting the worst terrorist in Sudan, is Omar al-Bashir. And last week, the Prince of Qatar was with Afwerki, and Omar al-Bashir was in Kassala, and they fund a lot in building streets and building a lot of things, and provide money to NCP to survive because they are living in a bad economic situation. And as a result of that, people are in uprising, demonstrating in Khartoum and everywhere, and faced by the security organs toughly, especially those people who are from Nuba Mountains, Blue Nile, and Darfur, as well as some youth from the north, such as Grifna and Youth for Change and Youth for Diversity in Nuba Mountains and other places. So I believe as the map of south of the Sudan being changed after the secession of South Sudan, also the political dynamics is changed in Sudan. The political map is changed in Sudan. So even such big parties like Ummah Party and Democratic Unionist Party, their ideology is Islamic ideology. They are working to impose Sharia law, and that's why we have to look for those people who are the majority in Sudan, as I mentioned before, plus other youth and real people who announce regime change in Khartoum. They collectively consist over 90% of Sudanese. So we need to support those people. We need to strengthen those people. We need to fund those people to survive, to struggle. We need to connect those uprisers in Khartoum with those who are in Kauda Alliance, and Kauda Alliance consists of SPLM or SPLA and SLA and SLA Minawi and SLA Nur Abdul Wahid Muhammad Nur. So it is time for change in Sudan. It is time for the strategists and the lawmakers to involve the real people who are understand what is the mentality of the NCP. NCP mentality of lying, of hypocrites will never ever be changed. So any compromise through any peace deal will not solve the root causes of the problem of Sudan, because all the agreements they signed with different people in different regions and places, including the east, the south, the north, Nuba Mountains, Blue Nile, Darfur, they will not implement it in the right way. And also, they are playing tactics. They're using the media, the whole media of the country. They're using the resources. They're using the Arab media. They're using the relation with Islamic countries. They're using their embassies to mislead the international community, and they are working in the daily basis. So their voice are more than those oppressed by the NCP, because they have no any front, they cannot move, they don't have any like TV channels, they don't have any radios, they don't have any magazines or newspapers to articulate the issue of Sudan and the issue of the terrorists and the terrorism in the daily base. So I believe if the West need to help the majority of the Sudan, they have to help them militarily, and they have to help them financially, and they have to help them even media-wise, like creating such channels, speak with local language in Arabic, English, to reach the message to everybody in Sudan, to everybody in even Arab country. And also I believe the West have to neutralize the Arab countries of involving in Sudan issues, because the NCP sent the message to the Arab that war in Sudan, it is against Islam and against Arab. So they believe, yeah, they knew Omar al-Bashir and they knew the NCP are dictators, but they believe they are fighting for the Arabism and Islamism, and actually that's not the real picture. And then when they went to the West, they take the file of the terrorists and the cooperation with the West and United States in this file. When they go to African people, they said we are an African people and we are leaders. Don't let the West involve and try, because if they change Omar Bashir today, they will change another president tomorrow. So that's why the African Union get scared, and plus the corruption and the corrupted aspects used by the Khartoum regime to keep some African leaders in their sights. So sometimes American decision makers, they said they need something to come through the African Union. It will not happen, because even Gaddafi is a dictator and worse, and he said he is the king of kings of Africa. Till he died, no any one of the African presidents were criticizing Muammar Gaddafi, because Muammar Gaddafi used to pay to them. So this thing is doing now by the NCP. They know mentality of some of those people, and also it is shame sometimes when we heard in the United States, Nigeria and South Africa is standing beside the NCP, and they do not allow even the humanitarian access to go to these war-affected areas. It is sad for us, and we heard that from the American administration. Yesterday I was in a meeting, and we heard those things. It is, for us, it is very sad for them, and it is a shame of the people who have to get the legacy of Mandela, the one of the important leaders in the history of the world who liberated their own people, and he stepped down by himself, saying it is time for the young generation to take over and to rule South Africa. And I believe change is coming. I believe terrorists will be ending. I believe the people who is fighting for the right will win. I believe, as Commander Abdulaziz Adam Al-Hilo, the leader of the Nuba Mountains and the SPLM and the SPLA in Nuba Mountains, as he said, the only way to secure Sudan, the only way to build a peaceful and a democratic Sudan, the only way to recognize the diversity and the cultural background of Sudan and the history and the geography of Sudan, it is to remove Khartoum regime. We will put our hand on Commander Abdulaziz as civil societies, as indigenous and marginalized people of Sudan, as advocates who fight for the cause of the whole Sudanese who love peace and democracy. And we believe the international community has to strengthen Commander Abdulaziz Adam al-Hilo, has to work beside him, has to listen to him, has to invite him, has to go and see him and meet with him, interview him, and see this guy is the best person to lead Sudan in the near future, because he believes on the values what we believe here in the United States, the value of fighting the terrorists, the values of fighting slavery in Sudan, the values of building a democracy, a real democracy in Sudan, the values of keep everybody safe, and the values of educate everybody and develop the country as well. Thank you.